So, Jai Jinendra, everyone. Can we have phones on, please? I've done mine as well. So today is the fifth day of Paryushan. Some of you have asked, why are we celebrating Mahavir Jayanti today? So the book that we use in Paryushan is called Kalpa Sutra. And the word Kalpa means conduct. We say Jin Kalpa for the conduct that Bhagavan Mahavir followed. And this book originally was the sutras for sadhus to follow during the rainy season, during the chomas, because they had to change their conduct. What they then did a bit later was added the biographies of the 24 Tirthankars. And it is this that is read every day. So when you start reading it, when you reach the fifth day, which is today, you reach the birth of Bhagwan Mahavir. And to celebrate that, we celebrate Mahavir Jayanti again, even though the real one is in March or April. And that's why this happens today. Okay? So let's start Pratikraman. I see some new faces here, so let me explain what Pratikraman is so that you understand. Pratikraman, pra means to return, to go back. And atikraman means your actions. So we're going back for the actions you have done, and where they are wrong or with fault, we say michami dukram in asking for forgiveness. So when we say michami dukram, please all say it with me. And there are only two things that I ask of you for the next hour. Firstly, your undivided attention. And secondly, you have to be in the mood of seeking forgiveness. Your vow, your intention has to be that. If you don't have remorse, nobody's going to believe you're sorry. So the idea is to do this with the correct vow. And you can only do that if you are in full concentration. This is not the Pratikraman that you see in any of the other halls. What we do is we follow the book called Avashak Sutra. So Avashak Sutra is the essentials that we should all do every day. And there are 6 of them. And those 6 form the basis of Pratikraman. But what we do is cut them down to their minimum, so we can finish in 1 hour. Okay? So we will be going through this, and at each stage I will explain what we're doing. If there is anything you don't understand, at the end we'll have some Q&A time. Please feel free to ask. So the first avashak is samak. Samak is taking a vow of equanimity. So for this 1 hour, you keep your mind steady. You don't daydream, don't think about others, you don't speak, you don't fidget, you don't do anything else. You sit in one place and you pay attention. Okay, so we'll start with that. The second avashak is Chori Santo, which is praise to the Tirthankars who have given us this religion. So we'll say that by saying logos together. And the third avashak is Vandana, where we pay our respects to our gurus. So we'll do that together as well. And then we'll start Pratikam.
Namo Orientanam, Namo Siddhanam, Namo Ayariyanam, Namo Vacharanam, Namo Loe Savasaunam. Eso Panchinamukaru, Sava Paupanasanam, Manglanam Cha Save Simpadamam Bhavai Mangalam. Om Namo Orientanam, Namo Siddhanam, Namo Ayariyanam, Namo Vacharanam, Namo Loe Savasaunam. Eso Panchinamukaru, Sava Paupanasanam, Manglanam Cha Save Simpadamam Bhavai Mangalam. Namo Orientanam, Namo Siddhanam, Namo Ayariyanam, Namo Vacharanam, Namo Loe Savasaunam. Eso Panchanamukaro, Sava Paupanasanam, Manglanam Cha Save Simpadamam Bhavai Mangalam. દ્રવ્ય થકી સાવજ જોગ સેવાના પચકાણ ક્ષેત્ર થકી આખા લોક પ્રમાણીકાળ થકી બે ઘડી ઉપરાંત ન પાડવું અને ન પડાવવું ત્યાં સુધી ભાવ થકી 6 કુટીએ પચકાણ કરેમી પંતે સામાયમ સાવજમ જોગમ પચકામી ચાવ Ciao, minamam pachuasami, duvyam tivinam nakarimi nakarimi, mansa vaisakai satasapante padikamami, nindami kariyami, appanam bosirami.
Now, let's say logos together. Logos uchoya kare, dhamma tikaya vichiva, arihante kitari sam, chovisampi kevali, usavamajiyam shavande, Sambhava Bhavinandanam cha Sumayam cha Pamapaham Supasam Jinam cha Chanda Pahavate Suviham cha Putvadantam Siyada Siyam cha Vasupujam cha Vimala Manantam cha Jinam Santirchavadami Kuntumaram Chamandim Vande Muni Suranyami Jinam Cha Vandami Vitanevim Asantaha Vardhamanam Cha Evam Maya Pitura Viyurai Mahina Jaramayana Chovisampi Jinavara Tirthayara Nirvasyantu Nitya Vandiya Maya Jelokasa Uttamasita Aruga Bohirabham Samaivara Muttamadintu Chandesu Nimayera Aichesu Ayam Payasaya Sagarvara Gambira Siddha Siddhi Mahati Santu. So having paid our respects to the 24 Pithakas, we'll now say Tikuto 3 times to do one woman. Tikuto Ayahiram Vandami Namansami Sakaremi Sammaremi Kalyanam Mangalam Devyam Cheyam Pajwaswami Tikuto Ayahiram Payahiram Vandami Namansami Sakaremi Sammaremi Kalyanam Mangalam Devyam Cheyam Pajwaswami Tikuto ayahiram vandami namansami sakaremi sammaremi kalyanam mangalam devyam cheyam pajwaswami. So now we come to Pratikraman. In Jainism, the path for spiritual progress is made of 3 components: knowledge, your faith or belief, and your conduct. And Pratikraman goes through each of these and points out where you may have faults or done things in the wrong way to help you clean your path and move ahead and move forward. So we'll go through each of these sutras in both their original language and in English, one at a time.
દિવસ સંબંધી જ્ઞાન દર્શન ચારિત્ર અને તપને વિશે જે અતિચાર लाग्या હોય તે આલવું છું આ ગમે તેવી એ પન્ન તે તમ જहाँ સુતા ગમે અથા ગમે તદુભયા ગમે એવા શ્રી જ્ઞાનને વિશે જે અતિચાર लाग्या હોય તે આલવું છું ચમ વાઈતમ વચામેલમ હિતકરમ આજકુકરમ પરિણમ વિણયનમ જોગીણમ ઘોષિણમ સુટુદિનમ દુટુ પરિચયમ કાલે કહો સજાઓ કાલે ન કહો સજાઓ અસજાય સજાય ન સજાય એમ ભણતા ગણતા ચિંતવતા 14 પ્રકારે કોઈ પાપ દોષ લાગ્યો હોય તો અર્યંત અનંત સિદ્ધ ભગવાન આપની સાથે તસ્મિં ક્ષામિ દુક્કડમ.
So we start with the first sutra, which is around our knowledge. So during this day, if I have read scriptures of any of the 3 types, whether they are the main Agam scriptures or their translated meanings or a combination of these scriptures, and I have recited them in a manner that is incorrect. I have recited them inattentively. I have used lesser words than they should be. I have used more words than should be. I have omitted verses. I have recited it disrespectfully. I have reached an unsteady mind or read them with unsteady speech or body. I have recited without correct pronunciation. I have given knowledge to somebody who is unworthy. I have disrespectfully or arrogantly gained knowledge. The recitation of these scriptures were done at a time that was improper, or it was not done at a time that was proper. It was done in a place that was improper, or it was not done in an appropriate place. If I have sinned in any such way, then tasmichami.
દંસણ સમક્તિ પરમત્ત સંતવો વાસુદિત પરમત્ત સૈવણા વાવી વાવન કુદંસણ વચના સમત્ત સદ્રુવાણા એવા સમક્તિના સમણ વાસેણમ સમતસ પંચયારા પેયાલા જાણી હવ્યાના સમારી હવ્યા તમ જાતે આલો શંકા કંકા વિધિ ગચ્છ પરપાસન પ્રશંસા પરપાસન સંતવો એમ સમક્તિ રૂપ રત્નને વિષય મિથ્યાત્વ રૂપ રજ મેલ દોષ લાગ્યો હોય તો અર્યંત અનંત સિદ્ધ ભગવાન આપની સાક્ષી તસ્મિચ્છામિ દુઃખમ.
So next we look at faith. True faith towards the true God, the true Guru, or the true religion. Ultimately the highest truth to realize by yourself and realized through a Guru. This highest truth also should not mean that those who have attained it desert after enlightenment, or to abandon a path that is wrong from somebody who is hypocritical and who considers sinful acts as religion, to keep faith in those who follow the true religion and the true faith, to become a devotee of sadhus of true faith. In this, I say that I shall not doubt true faith. I shall not desire the opinions of those that are hypocrites. I shall not doubt the benefit of holy deeds. I shall not appreciate the opinion of hypocrites, and I should not associate with such hypocrites. Today, if I have sinned in any such way, then tasmichami.
પહેલું અણુવ્રત થુલાવ પાણાઈ વાયો વેરમણમ ત્રસ્યું પેન્દ્ર તેન્દ્ર ચૌરિદ્ર પંચેન્દ્રિય જીવ જાણી પ્રીચી સ્વસંબંધી શરીર માયલા પીડાકારી સ અપરાધી વિગ્લેન્દ્રિય વિના કુટી હણવા નિમિત્તે હણવાના પચકાન તથા સૂક્ષ્મ એકેન્દ્રિય પણ હણવાના પચકાન જાવ જેવા એ દુવિયમથી વેણમ ન કરેમી ન કારવેમી મણસા વૈસા ખાયસા એવા પહેલા થોલ પ્રાણાધિપાત વેરમણમ વ્રતના પંચયારા પેયાલા જાણી આવ્યા ન સમાઈ આવ્યા તમ જાતે આલો બંને વહે છ વિજય આઈ ભારે પતપાણું છે એવા પહેલા વ્રતને વિશે આજના દિવસે બંધી છે કોઈ પાપ દોષ લાગ્યો હોય તો તસ્મિચ્છામિ દુઃખમ.
So now we start conduct, and conduct is initially the 12 small vows that we should all live our lives by. The first small vow, anuvrat, is the vow of ahimsa or non-violence. I vow to not cause gross violence towards life. I refrain from lives that move around with souls that have two senses, touch and taste, like worms, shells, and others, and souls that have three senses, touch, taste, and smell, like ants and lice, souls that have four senses, touch, taste, smell, and vision, like flies and bees, and those with five senses, like people, like horses, like cows, and other animals. Living beings, either knowing them or through this identification, whether I own them or they're somebody else's, I shall not inflict pain on their bodies or offend them. These lives, I shall not deliberately, intentionally kill them, and I vow not to kill them, not even the smallest organisms. As long as I live, either by myself or to ask others to do such killing through mental, verbal, or physical means. I shall refrain from any type of violence towards life. I vow to refrain from attacking these lives with sticks or other implements, tying them with strong strings or cords, ladening them with weight, depriving them of food or other evil intentions. If I have sinned in any such way, then tasmichami. Look at me.
બીજું અણુવ્રત લાવો મુસાવાયો વેરમણમ કન્નાલિક ભુવાલિક ભૌમાલિક થાપણ મોસો મોટકી કુડી શાક ઇત્યાદि મોટું જૂઠું બોલવાના પચકાણ ચાઉ જીવાય ધુવિયમથી વેણમ ન કરેમી ન કારવેમી મણસા વૈસા કાયસા એવા બીજા તુલ મુસાવાત વેરમણમ વ્રતના પંચયાર જાણી આવ્યા ન સમારી આવ્યા તમજા દયાલો સસા વખકાણે રસા વખકાણે સત્સા કરતાળ મતે બે મોસો વૈસે કુડલે કરણે એવા બીજા વ્રતને વિશે આજના દિવસ સંબંધી જે કોઈ પાપ દોષ લાગ્યો હોય તો તસ્મિચ્છામિ દુગ્રમ.
The second vow is that of not lying, telling the truth. So, from saying gross lies, I refrain from lies pertaining to brides to be, lies pertaining to animals, regarding land and property, speaking lies with the intention of not returning somebody else's belongings, lying by being a false witness at a major event, and other such gross lies. I vow not to speak as long as I live, either by myself or through somebody else, in mind, thought, or body. I vow to give up speaking such lies and also speech that might be shocking or alarming by revealing other people's confidentiality, by revealing the secrets of one's husband, wife, or family, by preaching things that I know to be false, by writing things that I know to be wrong. If I have sinned in any such way, then thus michami. Look at me.
ત્રીજું અણુવ્રત લાવો અદીના દાણા વેરમણમ ખાતર કડી કાઠડી ચોડી તાળું પર કૂચી કરી પડી વસ્તુ ધણ્યાથી જાણી ઇત્યાદિ મોટું અદત્તાદાન લેવાના પચકાણ સગા સંબંધી તથા વ્યાપાર સંબંધી નરભમી વસ્તુ ઉપરાંત અદત્તાદાન લેવાના પચકાણ જાવ જીવાય દુવિયમ તિવેણમ ન કરેમી ન કારવેમી મણસા વૈસા કાયસા એવા ત્રીજા થૂલ અદત્તાદાન વેરમણમ વ્રતના પંચયારા જાણી આવ્યા ન સમારી આવ્યા તમ જાતે આલોમ તેના હળે તક્કર પાઓગે વિરુદ્ધ રચ્યાઈ કમે કુડદોલે ગુડ માણે કત્તા પડી રૂવા ગવારે એવા ત્રીજા વ્રતને વિશે આજના દિવસ સંબંધી જે કોઈ પાપ દોષ લાગ્યો હોય તો તસ્મિચ્છામિ દુગ્રમ.
The third vow is the vow of not stealing. So the third vow of gross theft, I refrain from stealing somebody's buried treasure, opening somebody's packages, opening somebody's lock with another key, knowingly taking somebody's belongings. I vow not to take somebody's valuable belongings without their permission. Apart from things that might be insignificant or of little value, I shall not take without permission as long as I live, either by myself or through somebody else, either through mind, speech, or body. I shall not deal in goods that are stolen. I shall not help a thief. I shall not do anything against the law of the country. I shall not use wrong weights and measures. I shall not give goods that are inferior after showing goods that are superior. If I have sinned in any such way, then tasmichami.
ચોથું અણુવ્રત લાવો મેહુણાઓ વેરમણમ સહકર્તાળ સંતોષે અવશેષ મેહુણ વિના પચકાણ અને જે સ્ત્રી પુરુષને મૂળ થકી કાયા કરી મેહુણ સેવાના પચકાણ હોય તેને દેવતા મનુષ્ય તીરથ સંબંધી મેહુણ સેવાના પચકાણ ચાવ જીવાય દેવતા સંબંધી ધુવિયમ તિવિયમ ન કરેમી ન કારવેમી મણસા વૈસા કાયસા મનુષ્ય તિર્યન સંબંધી એક વિયમ એક વિહેણમ ન કરેમી કાયસા એવા ચોથા તુલ મેહુણ વેરમણમ વ્રતના પંચયારા જાણી આવ્યા ન સમારી આવ્યા તમ ચાહતે આલોમ ઇતર્ય પરિખ્યા ગમણે અનંત કીડા પર વિવાહ કરણે કાંબોગે સુતીવા વિલાસા એવા ચોથા વ્રતને વિશે આજના દિવસ બંધી જે કોઈ પાપ દોષ લાગ્યો હોય તો તસ્મિચ્છામિ દુક્કડમ.
The fourth vow of brahmacharya is about gross sensuality. I refrain from gross sensuality and be content with my own wife or husband and with nobody else other than him or her. Sensual pleasures with other personalities, I give up as long as I live, either through myself or through others, in mind, speech, or body. I will not have marital relationships with a wife who might be of an immature age. I will not have premarital relations. I will not have perverse relations. I will not take interest in getting others married. I will not become obsessive towards sensualism. If I have sinned in any such way, then tasmichami.
પાંચમું અણુવ્રત તુલાહો પરિગાહો વેરમણમ ખેતવતુનું યથા પરિમાણ હિરણ સુવર્ણનું યથા પરિમાણ દંદાન્યનું યથા પરિમાણ દુપત ચૌપદનું यथा परिमाण કુવ્યનું यथा પરિમાણ એ यथा પરિમાણ કીધું તે ઉપરાંત પોતાનો પરિગ્રહ કરી રાખવાના પચખાણ જાઓ જીવા એક બી અમતી વેણમ ન કરે મી મણસા વૈસા કાયસા એવા પાંચમા થૂલ પરિગ્રહ પરિમાણ વેરમણ વ્રતના પંચયારા જાણી હવ્યા ન સમારી હવ્યા તમ જ્યાં આલો ખેતવતુ પ્રમાણ એકમે હિરણ સુવર્ણ પ્રમાણ એકમે ધંધાન્ય પ્રમાણ એકમે દુપત ચૌપત પ્રમાણ એકમે કુવ્ય પ્રમાણ એકમે એવા પાંચમા વ્રતને વિશે આજના દિવસ બંધી છે કોઈ પાપ દોષ લાગ્યો હોય તો તસ્મિચ્છામિ દુક્કડમ.
The next anuvrat, the fifth anuvrat, is about limiting your possessions. I vow to refrain from surplus material belongings. I refrain from open land like fields or farms, enclosed spaces like houses or shops, with whatever limit I have set, with silver and gold, with the limit I have set, with cash and food provisions like grains within the limits set, animals and properties or houseware inside my house within the limits I have set. Within these set limits, I am forbidden to accumulate wealth over and above that, as long as I live, either by myself or asking others to do for me. In thought, word, or speech, I shall not cross the limits of land or enclosed spaces. I shall not cross the limits of gold or silver, cross the limits of cash or other wealth, cross the limits of animals or of houseware. If I have sinned in any such way, then tasmichami dukkkadam.
છઠ્ઠું દિશી પ્રતુટ દિશીનું યથા પરિમાણ અધો દિશીનું यथा પરિમાણ તિર્ય દિશીનું यथा પરિમાણ એ यथा પરિમાણ કીધું છે તે ઉપરાંત સ્વેચ્છાએ કાય જઈને પાંચ આશ્રમ સેવાના પચખાણ જાઓ જીવાય દુવ્યમ તિવેણમ ન કરે મી ન કાઢવે મી મણસા વૈસા કાયસા એવા છઠ્ઠા દિશી વેરમણ વ્રતના પંચયારા જાણી હવ્યા ન સમારી હવ્યા તમ જ્યાં તે આલો ઉર્ધ દિશી પ્રમાણ એકમે અધો દિશી પ્રમાણ એકમે તિર્ય દિશી પ્રમાણ એકમે ખેતવૂટી સહી અંદર થાય એવા છઠ્ઠા વ્રતને વિશે આજના દિવસ બંધી જે કોઈ પાપ દોષ લાગ્યો હોય તો તસ્મિચ્છામિ દુક્કડમ.
The sixth anuvrat is to limit your activities within a set geographical area, to limit the amount of sin that you commit. So the vow is concerned with remaining within set limits in all six directions: in the upward direction, in the lower direction, north, east, south, and west. Such limits, I shall not cross them willingly or physically, to commit sins of violence, lies, theft, sensuality, and greed. I forbid myself as long as I live, either by myself or through somebody else, in mind, speech, or body. And if I have crossed the limits of the upward direction, of the lower direction, or of north, east, south, and west, or I have reduced the limit in one direction and extended in another, or have proceeded in spite of suspecting that I have crossed this limit, if I have sinned in any such way, then tasmit chami.
સાતમું વ્રત ઉભોગ પરિભોગવીમ પચકાણેમાયો ઉલ્લણ્યાવીમ દંતણવીમ ફલવીમ અપંકણવીમ ઉવટણવીમ મજ્જણવીમ વતવીમ વિલેવણવીમ પુપવીમ આબ્રણવીમ તુપવીમ પેજવીમ પખણવીમ મોદણવીમ સુપવીમ વિદયવીમ સાગવીમ માવરવીમ જમણવીમ પાણીયવીમ મોહવાસવીમ વાહણવીમ કુવાહણવીમ શયણવીમ સચિતવીમ દવવીમ ઇત્યાદિનું યથા પરિમાણ કીધું છે. તે ઉપરાંત ઉભોગ પરિભોગ ભોગ નિમિત્તે ભોગવવાના પચકાન ચાવ જેવાય એક વ્યમ દિવેણમ ન કરેમી મણસા વૈસા કાયસા એવા સાતમા ઉભોગ પરિભોગ તુવીએ પનતે તમજા ભોયણા હોય કમ હોય ભોયણા હોય સમણ વાસણ પંચયાર જાણી આવ્યા સમારી આવ્યા તમજા ત્યાલોમ સચિતારે સચિત પડિવતારે અપૌલ્યો સે પકણ્યા દુપૌલ્યો સે પકણ્યા તુચ્છો સે પકણ્યા કમવણમ સમણ વાસણ પનરસ કમ દાણાઈ જાણી આવ્યા સમારી આવ્યા તમજા ત્યાલોમ हिंगात कमे वण कमे साड़ी कमे बाड़ी कमे फोड़ी कमे दंत वाणिज्य केश वाणिज्य रस वाणिज्य लक वाणिज्य विष वाणिज्य चंद पिलाण कमे नीलम छण कमे दबगी दावणा सरदा तलाक परिसुसण्या असई जन पोसण्या એવા સાતમા વ્રતની વિશે આજના દિવસ સંબંધી ભોજનના 5 અતિચાર અને 15 કર્માદાન સંબંધી જે કોઈ પાપ દોષ લાગ્યો હોય તો તસ્મિ ક્ષામિ દુરામ.
The seventh vow is about upbhog paribhog. So articles that you can use once, like food and water, or articles that you can use multiple times, like clothes and jewelry. You take a vow to restrict or fix the number of cloths used to wipe your body, like towels and napkins, to use a restricted number of mouth cleaning implements, to restrict the consumption of fruits, to restrict the use of oils and lotions, restrict the use of material that is cosmetic, use limited quantities of bathing water, restrict the stock of your garments, restrict the use of cosmetics, restrict the use of flowers, limit the type and number of ornaments, limit the use of incense material, restrict the consumption of beverages like tea and coffee, the consumption of sweets, limit the type of food grains, limit the types of pulses, restrict the quantum of the 5 nutrients, ghee, oil, jaggery, milk, and curd, limit the use of green vegetables, limit the use of sweet fruits, restrict the number of items in the diet, consume a limited quantity of water, consume limited quantities of mouth fresheners, limit the number of cars or other vehicles, limit the number of footwear, the number of beds and mattresses, limit the use of animate things, fruits that have seeds, unboiled water, etc. And set limits to the use of other objects. I shall not do this either myself, or I should not get others to do it. And this relates to things related to meals, related to trade, related to anything that a Shravak might otherwise use. I shall not consume animate things. I shall not use things that are inanimate, but which are stuck to something that is animate or living. I shall not consume something that is only partially cooked. I shall not consume something which has been cooked in a way that is cruel. I will not consume things in where there is less to eat and more to throw away, like sugarcane or custard apple. In relation to my employment or trade, there are 15 sinful trades, and they are trades in which furnaces or other fires are used, trades that cut trees in the forest, like timber merchants, trades in fermented goods, like liqueur, to realize money by way of rent for things like carts, horses, or houses. Earth digging and constructing wells, like lakes, trade in ivory, bones, and horns, trade in fur, trade in things like liqueur, meat, honey, or butter or fat, trade in sealing wax, to deal in poisonous and toxic substances like opium or poison, to manufacture things by the process of crushing, like sugar and oil, to torture animals by piercing their limbs, to set fire to forests, fields, etc., to empty lakes, wells, or ponds, to keep carnivorous animals slaves, to earn your livelihood. If today you have sinned in any such way, then tasmichami dukkham.
આઠમું વ્રત અનર્થદંડનું વેરમણમ ચૌવી અનર્થા દંડે પન્નતે તમચા અવજાળાચર્યમ પમાયાચર્યમ હિંસ્પયાણમ પાવકમો વયસમ એવા આઠમા અનર્થદંડ સેવાના પચકાન ચાવ જીવાય દુવિયમથી વેણમ ન કરેમી ન કારવેમી મણસા વૈસા કાયસા એવા આઠમા અનર્થદંડ વેરમણમ વ્રતના પંચયારા જાણી હવે ન સમાર્ય વ્રત તમ જાતે આલો કંદપે કુકુએ મોહરે સમજતા ગણે ભોગો પરિભોગ ગઈ રતે એવા આઠમા વ્રતને વિશે આજના દિવસ બંધી જે કોઈ પાપ દોષ લાગ્યો હોય તો તસ્મિચ્છામિ દુર્લભમ.
The eighth vow is to refrain from unnecessary and meaningless violence. To refrain from unnecessary violence which penalizes your soul without any reason. This is evil concentration, mournful concentration, or cruel concentration. That is thinking badly about others, feeling sorry for yourself, or thinking about things that may be cruel. Having reluctance toward doing religious deeds and righteous deeds, to possess deadly weapons, to preach sinful acts. I refrain from such acts which give purposeless penalty, either by doing it myself or asking others to do it through mind, speech, or body as long as I shall live. I shall not speak such words that will increase passions. I will not perform bad gestures. I will not carelessly speak meaningless things. I will not collect deadly weapons. And amongst consumer items, I shall not have excess attachment. If today I have sinned in any such way, then tasmichami dukkham.
નવમું સામાયિક વ્રત સાવજ જોગનું વેરમણ ચાવ નિયમ પજવા સામી તુવ્યમ તિવેણમ ન કરેમી ન કાળવી મણસા વૈસા કાયસા એવી મારી તમારી સદૃઢના પ્રવૃત્તિ કરી સામાયિકનો અવસર આવે અને સામાયિક કરું તે વારે સ્પષ્ટનાય કરી સુત હોજો એવા નવમા સામાયિક વ્રતના પંચયાર જાણી હવે ન સમારી હવે તમ જાતે આલો મણતુપણી આણે વૈદુપણી આણે કાયદુપણી આણે સામાયિસ સહ્ય કરણ્યાય સામાયિસ અણબચિસ કરણ્યાય એવા નવમા વ્રતને વિશે આજના દિવસ સંબંધી જે કોઈ પાપ દોષ લાગ્યો હોય તો તસ્મિચ્છામિ દુર્લભમ.
The ninth vow is the vow of Samaik and any faults you commit whilst in Samaik, like you are now. The ninth vow is to remain in equanimity or Samaik. I refrain from sinful acts. I remain in that composed way up to the limits and boundaries that I have set, either by myself or through others, in mind, speech, or body. I will not do the following. I shall not employ my mind in a foul way. I shall not use foul language. I will not do the four acts. I will not do Samaik negligently or carelessly. I will not terminate Samaik before its actual completion. If today I have sinned in any such way, then tasmichami dukkham.
દસમું દેશાવકાશિક વ્રત દિન પ્રતિ પ્રભાતથી પ્રારંભીને પૂર્વાધિક 6 દિવસી જેટલી ભૂમિકા મોકલી રાખી છે તે ઉપરાંત સ્વઈચ્છાએ કાયે જઈને 5 આશ્રમ સેવાના પચખાન જાઓ અહોરંતમ દુભ્યમ તિવ્યણમ ન કરેમી ન કારવેમી મણસા વૈસા કાયસા જેટલી ભૂમિકા મોકલી રાખી છે તેમાં દ્રવ્યાધિકની મર્યાદા કીધી છે તે ઉપરાંત ભોગ પરિભોગ ભોગ નિમિત્તે ભોગવવાના પચખાન જાઓ અહોરંતમ એક વ્યમ તિવ્યણમ ન કરેમી મણસા વૈસા કાયસા એવા દસમા દેશાવકાશિક વ્રતના પંચયારા જાણી હવે ન સમારી હવે તમ જાતે આલો આણવણ પહોગે પેશવણ પહોગે સતરાણું વાય રૂવાણું વાય ભૈયા બોગલ પકાવે એવા દસમા વ્રતને વિશે આજના દિવસ બધી છે કોઈ પાપ દોષ લાગે હોય તો તસ્મિચ્છામિ દુર્લભમ.
So the 10th vow is to further restrict your attachments and limits to goods that you and activities that you do. So from dawn of the day in the 6 directions, whatever limit you have, further limit you have set, in addition to physically migrating, you will not either by yourself or through others, through mind, speech, or body, go over and above the articles that you have limited yourself to, and call for something that is outside any of the limits you have set. Send for something that you know is outside the limit you've set. Summon a person who might be outside those limits. Send messages to people outside your limit, or attract the attention of people you know are outside your limit. If today you have sinned in any such way, then tasmichami.
11મું પરિપૂર્ણ પોષક વ્રત અસણમ પાણમ ખાયમમ સાયમમ ના પચકણ અભવમ ના પચકણ મણિસુવન ના પચકણ માલાવન ગવિલેવન ના પચકણ સતમુસ્લાદિક તાવજ જોગ ના પચકણ જાવ હોરતમ પચ્ચુ આસામી દુવ્યમ તિવ્યમ ન કરેમી ન કરવેમી મણસા વૈસા કાયસા એવી મારી તમારી સદ્રુવણા પ્રવૃત્તાય કરી પોષણનો અવસર આવે અને પોષણ કરું તે વારે સ્પષ્ટતાય કરી શુદ્ધ હોજો એવા 11મા પરિપૂર્ણ પોષક વ્રતના પંચયાર જાણીવના સમારે વ્રતમ જાતે આલોમ અપડી લઈ સિચ્ચા સંતારે અપમજીય દુપમજીય સિચ્ચા સંતારે અપડી લઈ ઉચ્ચાર પાષણ ભૂમિ અપમજીય દુપમજીય ઉચ્ચાર પાષણ ભૂમિ પોસહસ સમમણાનું પાલડ્યા એવા 11મા વ્રતને વિશે આજના દિવસ બંધી જે કોઈ પાપ દોષ લાગ્યો હોય તો તસ્મિચ્છામિ તો પ્રાર્થના.
Worship is the vow of living like a sadhu or a sadhi for one day. And if you take such a vow, these are the faults that you should not commit. The 11th vow is to nourish the soul by religious and righteous doing. You should avoid food, water, dry fruits, and other eatables and abandon them. You should give up sensuality. You should give up jewelry and gold. You should give up flowers, garlands, and cosmetics. You should give up things like instruments and weapons that can be used for acts that are sinful. For one day and for one night, either by yourself or through others, through mind, speech, or body, you will not do such things while you're following Poshat Prat. You should not make your bed carelessly without looking for living beings or not looking properly. You should not make a bed without having swept the place or having swept it carelessly. You should not look at to dispose properly waste and other materials, or have disposed of it carelessly. You have not swept such a place, or again swept it carelessly. You have not followed this vow of Poshat in a proper manner. If whilst following Poshat you have committed any of these sins, then tasmichami.
12મું અતિથિ સંવિભાગ વ્રત સમણે નિકલતે ફાસુએણમ એસની જણમ અસણમ પાણમ ખાયમમ સાયમમ વત્તપડિગા કંબલ પાય પૂજણેણમ પાડ્યાર પીઠ ફલક સિચા સતારેણમ ઓસર બેસજેણમ પડીલા બેમાણે વિહરી સામી એવી મારી તમારી સદ્રુવણા પ્રરૂપનાય કરી સુપાત્ર સાધુ સાધ્વીજીની જોગવાઈ મળે અને નિર્દોષ આહાર પાણી બોરાવે તે વારે સ્પષ્ટનાય કરી શુદ્ધ હોજો એવા 12મા અતિથિ સંવિભાગ વ્રતના પંચયારા જાણીવાના સમાર્ય વ્રતમ જાતે આલોમ સચિતની ખેવણ્યા સચિત પહેરણ્યા કાલા એકમે પર્વ વયસે મચ્છર્યાય એવા 12મા વ્રતને વિશે આજના દિવસ સંબંધી જે કોઈ પાપ દોષ લાગ્યો હોય તો તસ્મિચ્છામિ તો.
The 12th and the last Anuvrat is Atithi Samvibhag. Atithi is somebody who is deserving, who comes unannounced to your house and asks for food or water. This person may be a Jain sadhu, for example. The virtue of sharing food and water with sadhus and other such people who have renounced everything. I shall serve them things that are inanimate or lifeless, that are innocent, food that is cooked, water that is lifeless or inanimate, sweet meats, mouth fresheners, simple white clothes, wooden pots and utensils, blankets or shawls, woolen brushes, things that can be given and taken back, like wooden beds or benches, planks, places to spread, mattresses or the mattress itself, medicine, or can be a composition of multiple items. I shall give devotedly. I cherish such desires. With such faith of mine, when circumstances arise for giving innocent food and water to deserving sadhu or sadhvis, I shall make sure that my giving is pure. I shall not mix things that are living or animate with things that are not living. I shall not cover something that is living by something that is not living when I give. I shall not give something that I know to be spoiled, fermented, or stale. I shall not ask others to give in spite of being able to give myself. I shall not be proud unduly after giving such things. If today I have sinned in any such way, then tasmichami. Look at them.
18 પ્રકારના પાપ સ્થાનક સંબંધી પાપ દોષ લાગ્યા હોય તે આલવું છું. પહેલું પ્રાણાતિપાત, બીજું મુસાવા, ત્રીજું અદત્તાદાન, ચોથું મૈથુન, પાંચમું પરિગ્રહ, છઠ્ઠું ક્રોધ, સાતમું માન, આઠમું માયા, નવમું લોભ, 10મું રાગ, 11મું દ્વેષ, 12મું કલહ, 13મું અભ્યાગાન, 14મું પૈશુન્ય, 15મું પરપરિવાર, 16મું રહી હરાઈ, 17મું માયા મોહ, 18મું મિચ્છા દંશ સલમ. એ 18 પ્રકારના પાપ સ્થાનક મારા જીવે તમારા જીવે સેવ્યા હોય સેવરાવ્યા હોય સેવતા પ્રત્યે અનુમોદના કરી હોય તો અનંત અનંતાસિત કેવડી ભગવાન આપની શક્તિ તસ્મિચ્છામિ દુર્લભ.
Next, we look at the 18 types of acts that are sinful. And these are, firstly, violence towards any type of life. Secondly, to lie. Thirdly, to steal or take something without permission. Fourth is being unchaste. Fifth is to have a worldly attachment to goods. Sixth is anger. Seventh is pride. Eighth is cunning. Ninth is greed. 10th is attachment. 11th is hatred or spite. 12 is to quarrel. 13 is to falsely allege or accuse somebody. 14 is to gossip. 15 is to criticize or backbite. 16 is to be happy doing acts that are sinful and be unhappy in doing things that are religious. 17th is to lie maliciously. And 18th is to trust a false god, a false guru, or follow a false religion. If today I have sinned in any such way, then tasmichami.
25 પ્રકારના મિથ્યાત્વ સંબંધી પાપ દોષ લાગ્યો હોય તે આલવું છું. પહેલું અભિગ્રહિક મિથ્યાત્વ, બીજું અનાભિગ્રહિક મિથ્યાત્વ, ત્રીજું અભિનિવેશિક મિથ્યાત્વ, ચોથું સાંસાયિક મિથ્યાત્વ, પાંચમું અણાભોગ મિથ્યાત્વ, છઠ્ઠું લૌકિક મિથ્યાત્વ, સાતમું લોકોત્તર મિથ્યાત્વ, આઠમું કુપ્રાવચન મિથ્યાત્વ, નવમું જીવની અજીવ સર્દેતે મિથ્યાત્વ, 10મું અજીવની જીવ સર્દેતે મિથ્યાત્વ, 11મું સાધુને કુસાધુ સર્દેતે મિથ્યાત્વ, 12મું કુસાધુને સાધુ સર્દેતે મિથ્યાત્વ, 13મું 8 કર્મથી મુકાણા તેને નથી મુકાણા સર્દેતે મિથ્યાત્વ, 14મું 8 કર્મથી નથી મુકાણા તેને મુકાણા સર્દેતે મિથ્યાત્વ, 15મું ધર્મને અધર્મ સર્દેતે મિથ્યાત્વ, 16મું અધર્મને ધર્મ સર્દેતે મિથ્યાત્વ, 17મું જીન માર્ગને અન્ય માર્ગ સર્દેતે મિથ્યાત્વ, 18મું અન્ય માર્ગને જીન માર્ગ સર્દેતે મિથ્યાત્વ, 19મું જીન માર્ગથી ઓછું પ્રવૃત્તિ મિથ્યાત્વ, 20મું જીન માર્ગથી અધિક પ્રવૃત્તિ મિથ્યાત્વ, 21મું જીન માર્ગથી વિપરીત પ્રવૃત્તિ મિથ્યાત્વ, 22મું અભિનય મિથ્યાત્વ, 23મું અકેલા મિથ્યાત્વ, 24મું અજ્ઞાન મિથ્યાત્વ, 25મું અજ્ઞાતના મિથ્યાત્વ. આ 25 પ્રકારના મિથ્યાત્વ મારા જીવે તમારા જીવે સેવ્યા હોય સેવરાવ્યા હોય સેવતા પ્રત્યે અનુમોદના કરી હોય તો તસ્મિચ્છામિ દુર્લભ.
Next, we look at the 25 types of belief that is wrong. Firstly, to stubbornly support something that's false without discrimination of whether it's true or false. Secondly, to believe in all gods and all gurus. To insist on personal opinion despite knowing that it is false. To support to having a suspicious nature towards the true religion. Fifth, to live in absolute ignorance. Sixth, to believe that gurus or devs, which are in contradiction to the true religion, and to recognize and celebrate their so-called festive or holy occasions, to worship the Tirthankars with selfish motives, to agree with the opinions of hypocrites, to consider what is living as non-living, to consider what is non-living as living, to consider a sadhu as a non-sadhu, and to consider somebody who's not a sadhu as a sadhu, to consider people who are liberated from the 8 karmas as unliberated, and to consider those that are not liberated as if they are liberated, to consider what is holy as not holy, and to consider what is not holy as holy, to look at the path of Jainism as some other path, to consider some other path as the path of Jainism, to understate the facts of Jainism or to overstate the facts of Jainism, to state facts that are contrary to Jainism, to disrespect your gurus, your elders, and other sadhus, to disbelief in religious practices, to glorify ignorance, to ill behave with the guru or your elders. If today I have committed any of these sins, either by myself or through somebody else, through mind, speech, or body, then tasmichami.
14 પ્રકારના સર્વમુચિમ મનુષ્ય સંબંધી પાપ દોષ લાગ્યા હોય તે આ લઉં છું. પહેલું ચારે સુવા, બીજું પાસવાને સુવા, ત્રીજું ખેલે સુવા, ચોથું સિંગાણે સુવા, પાંચમું વર્તે સુવા, છઠ્ઠું પીતે સુવા, સાતમું ભૂએ સુવા, આઠમું સોણીએ સુવા, નવમું સુકે સુવા, દસમું સુક પુગલ પરી સાડે સુવા, 11મું વિગે જીવ કલેવરે સુવા, 12મું ઇતિ પૂરી સંજોગે સુવા, 13મું નગર નિતમણે સુવા, 14મું સવે સુચે વસુઈ ટાણે સુવા. એ 14 પ્રકારના સર્વમુચિમ મનુષ્યની વિરાધના કરી હોય તો તસ્મિચ્છામિ દુઃખમ.
Next, we look at the 14 types of bacterial life, samucharim, that if we do not dispose of correctly, we will cause harm to. So that life which arises in our stools, in urine, in sputum or spit, in nasal secretions, in vomit, in acidic vomit, in pus, in blood, in semen, in dried semen when made wet, in cadavers or dead bodies, arising during intercourse, arising in city drains and other disposal areas, arising in all filthy places. If today, either by myself or through somebody else in mind, speech, or body caused any such sin, then tasmichami. That is the end of Pratikraman, the avashak of Pratikraman. The next avashak is Kausak. So if I can ask you all to sit up straight with your back straight, with your hands gently on your laps, your eyes closed. And whilst we say the next few sutras, just focus on them and focus on your inside. Close your eyes and remain still.
કાઉન્સક પહેલા હું આલોવેરા સૂત્ર સંભળાવું છું. આલોવેરા 4 ગતિ 24 દંડક 84 લાખ જીવાયોની 1,97,00,000 કુલ કોટીના જીવને મારા જીવે તમારા જીવે આજના દિવસ સંબંધી આરંભે સમારંભે મન વચન કાય કરી દુભાવ્યા હોય, દ્રવ્ય પ્રાણ ભાવ પ્રાણ પર દુહાવ્યા હોય, પરિતાપના કિલામના ઉપજાવી હોય, ક્રોધે માને માયાએ લોભે રાગે દ્વેષે હાસ્ય ભયે ખડાય, દ્રિટાએ આપતાપનાએ પરુતાપનાએ, દુષ્ટ લેશયાએ દુષ્ટ પરિણામે, દુષ્ટ ધ્યાને અર્થ ધ્યાન રૌદ્ર ધ્યાન કરીને, ઈર્ષ્યાએ મમતે હટપણે અવજ્ઞા કરી હોય, દુઃખમાં જોડ્યા હોય સુખથી ચૂકવ્યા હોય, પ્રાણ પર્યાય સંજ્ઞા ઇન્દ્રિય આદિ લપતી વૃત્તિથી ભ્રષ્ટ કર્યા હોય, તો તે સર્વ મળી 18,24,120 પ્રકારે પાપ દોષ લાગ્યો હોય, તો અર્યંત અનંસિત ભગવાન આપની સાથે તસ્મિચ્છામિ દુઃખમ. इच्छामि खामि कावसगम जो मे देवसी हो यारो कायो वायु मानसे उसुतो मको कपो करनी जो तुचाओ दुवि चिंत्यो अणाया रोणी चीवे सावक पावगो नाणिता दंसणे चरिता चरिते सुये सामाये तीणम गुतिणम चवणम कसायणम पंचणम मनुवायणम तीणम गुणवायणम चौणम सिक्काव्याणं बारसवियस सावकदमस जमखंडियम जविरांतस्मिच्छामि दुग्धम. 4 લોગસનો કાવસક કરાવું છું, બધા લોગ તારી જાજો. લોગસ જોઈ કરે તમતિ ત્યારે જીણ્યરે તે કિતે સમચાવી સંબી કેવડી ઉસત મંજ્યમ ચ વંદે સંભવમ અભિનંદનમ ચ સુમયમ ચ પં પં સુવાસમ જીણમ ચ ચંદ પવંદે સોયમ ચ પુપદતમ સેયસી ચ સમ વાસુપુજમ ચ વિમલ મણતમ ચ જીણમ ધમ્મમ સંદીપ ચ વંદામિ કુંદમરમ ચ વલ્લી વંદે મુનિ સોયમ નમિ જીણમ ચ વંદામિ રિટનિમિ પાસમ તવ વર્તમાનમ ચ એવમ મયા વિદ્વાવિયુરે मला પૈંજર્મણ ચૌસમ બીજેન તિતેરામે પશ્યંતુ કિતિ વંદે મયા જય લોગસતમા સિતારુ બોયલાભમ समायिवर्मुत्तमं दिन्तु चन्देषु निमलराज्ये स्वयं पयासैर सागर गंभीरा सेतासिनि मम दिसन्तु लोगस्य उच्चोय करे दमति तेरे जणे अनते किते सम च विसपि केवडी उसब मंज्यम च वंदे संभवम अभिनंदनम च सुमयं च पं पं सुपासं जीणं च चंद पवंदे सोयं च पुपदतं सेरसि च संवासुपुजं च विमल मणतप च जीणं तम संतिं च वन्दामि कुन्दुमरं च मल्लिमदे मुनिसुवं नमि जीणं च वन्दामि रिटनिमिं पासप्तव वर्तमानं च एवं मया भीत्वा वैव्रैमला पैंजर्मणा चौविसंपि जेनवरातितरमे पश्यन्तु किति वन्दे मय्या जये लोकसुतमा सितारु वैलाभं समायिवर्मुत्तमं दिन्तु चन्देषु निमलरा ऐचे सुवयं पयसर सागर गंभीरा सिता सिद्धि मम दिसन्तु लोकस्य उच्चोय करे दमति करे जेणे अनते किते संचविसंपि केवडी उसब मंजियं च वन्दे संभवम् अभिनदनं च सुमयं च पंगवं सुवासं जीणं च चन्द्रपं वन्दे सूर्यं च पुपदतं सेयसि च संवासुभुजं च विमल मणतं च जीणं तं सन्तिं च वन्दामि कुन्तुमरं च मल्लिमन्दे मुनिसूर्यं नमिचनं च वन्दामि रिटनिमिं पासं तव वर्तमानं च एवं मया भीत्वा विव्रैमला पैंजर्मणा चौविसंपि जेनवरातितरमे पश्यन्तु किति वन्दे मय्या जये लोकसत्तमा सितारु वैलाभं समाहि वरमुत्तमं दिन्तु चन्द्रेषु निमलरा ऐचैसु वयं पयासैर सागर गंभीरा सिता सिद्धि मम दिसन्तु लोकस्य उच्चोय करे दमति करे जेणे अरन्ते किते सं चविसंपि केवडी उसब मज्जियं च वन्दे संभवम् अभिनंदनं च सुमयं च पं पं सुपासं जीणं च चन्दपं वन्दे सूयं च पुपदतं सेयसि च संवासुपुजं च विमल मणतं च जीणं दं सन्धिं च वन्दामि कुन्तुमरं च मल्लिमन्दे मुनिसुवं नमि जीणं च वन्दामि रिठनिमिं पासं तव वर्तमानं च एवं मया भीत्वा विहुरैमला पैंजर्मणा चौविसंपि जेनवरातितरमे पश्यन्तु कितीय वन्दे मय्या जये लोकसत्तमा सितारु बोयलाभं समायिवर्मुत्तमं दिन्तु चन्देषु निमलरा ऐचेसु वयं पयासैर सागर गंभीरा સિતા સીધી મમ દિસંતુ 4 લોગસનો કાવસક પૂરો થતા પાડું છું અને પડાવું છું. તેમાં કાનો માત્રા મીંડું પદક્ષર ગાતા સૂત્ર ઓછું અધિક વિપરીત પણાનું ગણાનું હોય તો અયંતનંસિત ભગવાન આપની શાક્ષી તસ્મિચ્છામિ તુક્રમ નમો ઓરિયંતાણમ નમો સિદ્ધાણમ નમો આયર્યાણમ નમો વજ્જાણમ નમો લોહે સવસાવણમ નમો ઓરિયંતાણમ.
So having completed Pratikraman, which is saying Michami Dukra to every possible type of sin, and also housework for our enrichment of our souls. The next part, the last Abhishek, is Pratikraman. If you've noticed, most of Pratikraman is about reducing your attachment or reducing the amount of possessions that you use. And what Pachkan is an opportunity for you for at least one day, longer if possible, to give up something that you like or you love, to basically make your mind stronger. You don't have to give up something. You can take something on, like I will do an additional mara tomorrow, or I shall pray for a bit longer, whatever it is. But what you need to do is make your mind stronger by giving up things at will, without worrying about the consequences.
ધારણા પ્રમાણે સૌ બધા ચોયા ધારી જજો. ચૌયમ બિહારમ પચકામી અસણમ પાણમ ખાયમમ સાયમમ અનતણા ભોગેણમ સસાગારેણમ અર્થાત મહતરાવગારેણમ સર્વસમાહી વાતાગારેણમ અપાણમ વસિરામી. નમોતુણમ પહેલું નમોતુણમ શ્રી સીતા ભગવંતોને કરું છું. નમોતુણમ અરિંતાણમ ભગવંતાણમ આયકરાણમ તિતરાણમ સંસભૂતાણમ પુરુષોત્તમાણમ પુરીસ્યાણમ પુરીસવર્ગંદતિનમ પુરીસવર પુંડ્રિયાણમ પુરીસવર્ગંદતિનમ લોકુત્તમાણમ લોકનાણમ લોકયાણમ લોકપૈવાણમ લોકપજોયકરાણમ અભયદાણમ ચક્ષુદાણમ મગદાણમ શરણદાણમ જીવદાણમ બોયદાણમ દમદાણમ દમદેશયાણમ દમનાયકાણમ દમસારીણમ દમવર્ચમ ચકવટીણમ દેવોતાણમ શરણ કઈ પૈઠાણમ અપડિયવનાણમ દસંધરાણમ વ્યશોમાણમ જીણાણમ જાવણમ તિનાણમ તારાણમ ભૂતાણમ બોયાણમ મુત્તાણમ મૈગાણમ સમંદુણમ સવદરિસેણમ શ્રીમયલ મરવિમણમ મકૈ માવા મપુનાવંતિ સિદ્ધગી નામદેમ ટાણમ સંપતાણમ નમો જીણાણમ જીબાણમ બીજું નમોતરમ શ્રી હરિન દેવોને કરું છું નમોતરમ હરિતાણમ ભગવતાણમ આઈગરાણમ તિત્યરાણમ સમસભૂતાણમ પુરુષોત્તમાણમ પુરીસ્યાણમ પુરીસવર પુંડ્રિયાણમ પુરીસવર ગંધત્રિણમ લઘુત્તમાણમ લોકનાણમ લોકિયાણમ લોકપૈવાણમ લોકપજોઈ ગરાણમ અભયદાણમ ચક્ષુદાણમ મગદાણમ શરણદાણમ જીવદાણમ ભુઈદાણમ દમયાણમ દમદેશ્યાણમ દમનાયકાણમ દમસારીણમ દમવર્ચમ ચકવટીનમ દેવોતાણમ શરણ ગઈ પૈઠાણમ અપરિવર્ણાણમ દસંતરાણમ વિયચમાણમ જીણાણમ જાવાણમ તિનાણમ તારણમ ભૂતાણમ બોયાણમ મુત્તાણમ મૈગાણમ સવંદુણમ સવદરિસિણમ શ્રીમાલ મરુઈ મણક મક્કઈ મહાપા મપુંડાવંતી સિદ્ધગી નામ દેમ ટાણમ સંભાવિકામાપમ ત્રીજું નમોત્તરમ મમ ધમ ગુરુ ધમ આયસ ધમ ઉદેશક સવંદામિણમ ભગવંતમ તત્તગમ્યગે તિકટ્ટુ વંદામિ તિક્કુતો વાયણમ પાયણમ વંદામિ નમસામિ સકાળમી સમાણમી કલાણમ મંગલમ દેવ્યમ ચયમ વજ્વાસામિ નમો ઓરિયંતાણમ નમો સિદ્ધાણમ નમો આયર્યાણમ નમો વચાણમ નમો લોય સર્વસાવણમ નમો ઓરિયંતાણમ.
Now we'll finish Samaik and then start the lecture. We'll have about 45 minutes before the bhavana starts next door.
દ્રવ્ય થકી સાવજ જોગ સેવાના પચકાન ક્ષેત્ર થકી આ કાલોક પ્રમાણે કાળ થકી બે ઘડીના પચકાન લીધા હતા તે પૂરા થતા પાડું છું અને પડાવું છું ભાવ થકી છકોટીએ પચકાન કર્યા હતા તે પૂરા થતા પાડું છું અને પડાવું છું એવા નમ સામાયિક રત્ન પચયાના જાણીવાના સમારેવા તમજા ત્યાલો મન દુપણ્યાણે વૈ દુપણ્યાણે કાય દુપણ્યાણે સામાય સસહ્ય કરણે સામાય સણભટિસ કરણે તસ્મિચ્છામિ દુક્કડમ સામાયિક સમમ કાયણમ ફાસ્યમ ફાલ્યમ સોયમ તિર્યમ કિત્યમ આરાયમાણે અણુપાલી લિયમ ભવૈ તસ્મિચ્છામિ દુક્કડમ સામાયિકમાં 10 મનના 10 વચનના 12 ગાના 32 દોષ માયલો કોઈ દોષ લાગ્યો હોય તો તસ્મિચ્છામિ દુક્કડમ સામાયિકમાં પુરુષ કથા પદ કથા દેશ કથા રાજ કથા અને 4 વી કથા માયલી કોઈ કથા કરી હોય તો તસ્મિચ્છામિ દુક્કડમ સામાયિકમાં આહાર સંજ્ઞા ભય સંજ્ઞા મંત્રપજ્ઞા પરિગ્રહ સંજ્ઞા કરી હોય તો તસ્મિચ્છામિ દુક્કડમ સામાયિકમાં અતિક્રમ વ્યતિક્રમ અતિચર અનાચર જાણતા અજાણતા મન વચન કાયા કરી કોઈ પાપ દોષ લાગ્યો હોય તો તસ્મિચ્છામિ દુક્કડમ સામાયિક વ્રત વિધિએ લીધું વિધિએ પાડ્યું વિધિએ કરતા અવિધિએ થયું હોય તો તસ્મિચ્છામિ દુક્કડમ સામાયિકમાં કાનો માત્રા મીંડુ પદ અક્ષર ગાતા સૂત્ર ઓછું અધિક વિપરીત ભણાણું ગણાણું હોય તો અર્યંત અને સિદ્ધ ભગવાન આપની સાથે તસ્મિચ્છામિ દુક્કડમ નમો ઓરિયંતાણમ નમો સિદ્ધાણમ નમો આયર્યાણમ નમો વચાણમ નમો લોય સર્વસાવણમ નમો ઓરિયંતાણમ.
Namo Orientanam. If you give us 2 minutes, we'll set up for the lecture and start. If anybody wants to stretch their legs for a minute or two, please do so. Yeah.
You want to stand up? No, it's the weight of this. The next one also.
Whilst we're waiting for people to come back, can I ask how many of you were here yesterday? Okay, let's make a start at this. So can you hear me at the back?
Only your voice,
That's all right. That's all you need.
not the mic.
So one more try. Okay. So over the last few days, we've been talking about attachment and about the consequences of attachment. And today I want to look at it from another angle. And you may ask, why do I keep looking at the same subject from different angles? But just think about what it is that I'm trying to get you to do. I'm trying to get you to believe in something that you've never seen. Most religions do this. It's either a God or believing that Jesus was the Son of God, or that Krishna or Vishnu or Shiva or whoever you believe in, you never see them. But you believe that through your prayers, through your activities, they will help you. In our religion, this thing is called Atma, the soul that resides inside you. Once you have a belief in this, and when you have a strong belief in this, so that you act as if you were an Atma rather than a body. Today, we all act like we're this body. We spend all our time looking after this body, dressing it, bathing it, putting cosmetics, cleaning it, identifying with, attached to it. Family, our occupation, our friends, our house, our status. Once you start believing that you're the soul, then my job is done. Because at that point, I don't have to convince you anymore. But until then, trying to get somebody who lives in a physical body, who experiences, who is attached to that body itself. And we talked about attachments. We're going to talk about two today. The first is being attached to this body. We believe this body, even though we know that there is a reality that everybody passes away, we always live as if we'll never pass away. And even though we know, and we talked about this yesterday, that everybody in our life is in our life for this one life, we live as if they've been with us and will be with us forever. Okay? So this is our state of ignorance. And in Jainism, that is often called mithyatva. The opposite of that is called samyaktva. And samyaktva is knowing the reality, the truth. And the truth is that this body will pass, but the soul inside this body will always be present, is permanent. So when we move our belief from that which is temporary to that which is permanent, then our life changes because we've discovered God. And so that is the purpose of this religion. So when it asks you to do religious acts, religious practices, why does it do that? The reason it does that is really simple. That today, although we know what good looks like, we don't know how far you are from it because we don't know how much karma you have between you and that reality. It's a bit like life. You know, we all want to live forever, but we have no idea how much life we have. Do we plan for 10 years or 20 years? It's a bit like, you know, when you go to your pension consultant and he says, how long do you think you're going to live? And you sit there and think, if only I knew, and if only he knew. So this is the reality that we don't know. And that is why when we do religious acts, what we are doing, because we cannot remove the karma, but by binding good karma, what we're doing, suppressing the bad karma that we have, so that the light inside us shines. And it's a very simple analogy that when you're there on a cloudy day, try to explain what the sun is to somebody who's never seen it. But as soon as the clouds open, you don't have to explain anymore. They've experienced it, that's it. So that is the purpose of this. Now, you might think, well, that's an easy task. So I want to start with a fact that our nearest animal relations are the apes, some of the monkeys. And did you know that between us and them, there is only 2% difference in DNA? We have evolved by 2%. That 2% makes us human. 98% plus, we carry the same genes. Now, what does that mean? What it means is that if you think about those animals, think about this big, male lion that's king of the jungle. And when you think about that, and you think about the qualities that these animals have, they have ego, greed, pride, fear, anger, deceit, hate. And it's interesting, we all have the same. So we're living like them. And the purpose of what this is to make you human. Give you that 2% that will change all of this. And we looked at over the last couple of days why we do these practices. But one practice you all did today was samayik, living in equanimity. And when you live in equanimity, all of those qualities have gone because they all rely on your passion. When you have equanimity, your mind is steady, there is no passion. So there's no anger, there's no greed, there's no hatred, there's no hate. So we know what it looks like. Now, when you think about equanimity, we live in equanimity through Pratikraman for 48 minutes. And if we practice this regularly, we do 48 minutes at a time. The people who have realized their souls typically end up becoming sadhus. That is normal path of progression. They don't want this worldly life, they move to a spiritual life. And they take a vow of equanimity for life. So they actually get away from all of this. They move into the 2%. And this is the big difference. Now you might think, why is it that we should do this? And it's a fair question when you look around this room. Because in reality, we're at the very top of the human tree. We're comfortable, we're well fed, we're well clothed, we live in a nice house, we have family, we have friends, we practice. You know, when you come to the point where you're able to practice religion because there's enough food in the fridge and you're contented and everything else is taken care of, you're at the top of the tree. But through these simple passions, the next birth changes. And when you change back to being at a lower level, think of people today living in Ukraine or in Gaza. When you change to being in the animal world, most animals live in fear. They live for food day to day. They look for, I mean, you know, if you ever see even a monkey or an ape finding a tree full of fruit, you will see the level of greed and the level of anger if somebody else comes and all of that. So you live in this, you know, animal passions and animal feelings. And that is the consequence of not getting progression in this life, because you're already at the top of that tree. And so progression is only downwards unless you move out of this. So the issue with that at the moment is that, and Pratikraman talks about it several times, worldly attachment. Worldly attachment means that you've basically not possessed something, but you're so attached to it that anything that happens to it is almost like something happening to an extension of you. And so that expectation of what you have, you know, if people, for example, buy a new watch, there's an expectation that people will see it and comment on it, because all watches tell time. But if you bought a watch that is special, it comes with expectations. And that is the attachment, that you are living a life where you're living in a life that is worldly, status-filled, wealth-filled in this reality. Now, the more you go down that path, the more each of those emotions come up, because when you have an expectation and that expectation isn't met, there's always the consequence. There's always anger, or if it is met, there is pride and ego. Look what I've got, look what I've done. So that attachment becomes the cause of most of what we do. And that cause puts us in a situation largely where we live through this idea of status, through this idea of progression, and through this idea that everything that we do will have the right outcome. That's the next attachment, outcome. But in reality, I can tell you that no outcome is in your hands. Not even the outcome of, I'm going to go home after this. It's what you'd like to do, but there are so many things that could go wrong, from your car not starting to a puncture, to an accident, to all sorts of things. So most of what we do, again, is with expectation, not with an outcome that we know. So when you think about that, what are we really trying to do is to move our minds to those things that are considered human. And by those, we talked about gratitude, a very human attitude, because what gratitude does is it means that you recognize what you have, not just for what people above you have, but in consideration of what people below you have, and become thankful. We talked about compassion, that you treat people regardless of who they are well. How many times in the Pratikraman did it say that the first sin is violence to any other type of life. Violence in mind, speech, or body. Compassion is the opposite of that. And the third is this idea of forgiveness, which is why we do Pratikraman and we say Michami Dukram. The forgiveness that we should practice is not forgiveness to somebody else, although that's how we practice it. We're actually forgiving ourselves. And yesterday, somebody was giving an example that they had with somebody else. And 2 weeks later, they had a discussion about the fact that they didn't like what somebody said. Now, if you're remembering that after 2 weeks, then how many times have you replayed that in your mind in the last 2 weeks? And in that replaying, as we kept saying again and again, and I'll say it one more time, in Jainism, karma is not what you do. It's equally what you say, and it's equally what you think. So if you've been replaying that for 2 weeks, you've bound 2 weeks worth of karma. And in that 2 weeks worth of karma, there is every chance that the same thing will happen again. The forgiveness closes that chapter. Because you forgive them, they forgive you, you move on. Even if they don't forgive you, you've said your sorries, you move on, you let go. Once you let go, that thought stops happening. So the idea is to live in these values. And you might say, well, is that really important? And so today, what I want to talk about is the importance of these values from a karma point of view. We talked about attachment, we talked about people, so let's talk about karma. Karma has a few interesting qualities. The first is that it makes you like and dislike things. Now, nothing comes with like or dislike. If you have a blue-colored car, that's because you like that color. But somebody else might say, I hate blue-colored cars. So when the car was manufactured, the manufacturer didn't put like on it. That is something we attach to it. So that gets us, not just for cars, but for everything, for people, for foods. We get into this, this is good, this is bad. This is likable, this is unlikable. So we start attaching labels. Those labels, again, what do they do to us? If we're given food that we don't like, the thought is, how can they give this to me? I hate this. What are we doing? Binding karma. And what does that karma do? Give us more of that. So every time you're thinking, you're creating your environment. If your thoughts are positive, if your mind is compassionate, if your emotion is love, and you forgive everything that somebody does wrong against you, your world will always be like that. But we sabotage this ourselves. Nobody else does this for us. Nobody else can do anything for us. So by consequence, we can't do anything for anybody else. You can put effort, you can have an intention, but you can't get your kids into Oxford. You can't make them Premier League football players. You might want to, but it's not possible. So in this, we have to remember that we have, from a Jain perspective, two different sets of mental organs. We have this brain, which is your computer, it's the processing machine. And the brain basically works when you make it work. And you make it work when you're present. Because when you're not present, you're either dreaming or thinking about what's going to happen, or saying, well, if I'd said this, I'd done this, this would have changed, this would have been different. Next time let him see what I'm going to do to him, blah, 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 blah. And you've played this little video in your mind. Then you're not using what you're doing is living in this world that is either in the future or the past. And that only exists in your imagination. But if you want to think consciously, you have to be here. Now, when you think of that mind, it basically gets all this input from your senses. And remember, you've trained your senses. I don't like that smell, that color I don't like that taste, this doesn't feel right. So you're playing this like and dislike all the time, okay? And again, with people as well. So it does that, and it gives you thoughts. Another thing that you attach to, my thoughts and my beliefs. Where do those thoughts come from? If you have this thought of being irritated, and that irritation, if somebody triggers it, is going to become anger. Where did that irritation come from? This is your karma. That's how your karma gives you its fruit. It makes you irritated. You then come here. Somebody pushes in the line in front of you. You become angry, but you don't want to cause a scene, so you don't say anything. But in your mind, you kind of seen where they're sitting, and it goes on and on and on. And your irritation has come back, bound itself to your soul, and now guess what's going to happen the next time? This is the cycle that we live in. That's why we never break out of it. And so when you think of thoughts, and when you think of things coming through your senses, all of which you have labeled, then, and this labeling, by the way, today goes to forgiveness. What do you do after the Sapansari Pratikraman? You look around for all the people you know and like, big hug, Michami Dukram, and the ones you don't kind of go the other way. It's a label. So the more you do that, now in reality, as I said, the label is what we put on there. But if we can't do anything for anybody, nobody can do anything for us, which means that what is ours is never going to go, as long as we're putting the effort in. If it's your turn to win the lottery, you have to buy the ticket. That's your effort. You put the effort, your good karma will give you the lottery. The problem we have is we spend our time, even when it's time to buy the lottery, thinking about the person who pushed in front of us. And we don't buy the lottery ticket. So we miss the good stuff that comes because we're not here. If we're not here, how will we see the good stuff that our good karma is giving to us? How does it give it? It presents it in front of you. But you have to be here. If you go to the bus stop and you're sitting with your headphones on and you miss the bus, well, the bus coming at the right time was your good fortune, your good karma. You sitting with the headphones is letting it go. So when you think about this mind, think about it from that perspective. And then think about what it is we're trying to do to this mind. Okay? In this mind, there are two things apart from thinking about nothing is good or bad. The first is that when you think about karma, today we think about interaction. We're all Vanyas. We think about transaction. I do for him, he does for me. Transaction. Karma doesn't work like that. Karma has no name on it. If, as a person, you're good, always, regardless of who you're good to, good will always come back to you. What you do comes back. That's it. That's the law of this universe. It doesn't mean that if I do good to him, only he can do good back to me. Because when I do good to him, he might be daydreaming. He might not even see it. Or he might be thinking about something else, or he might think this is not worth his time. That's not the point. The point is my intention and my action and my words were about doing good. So if you get rid of the likes and dislikes, you can always be good because everybody is a good person. Okay, some are nicer than others, but there is no bad. All these people are, all of you, all of me, everybody else, is a representation of the karma that's on our soul. That's why we have this body, this family, this name, the features, etc., are all just a representation of what we are. We came into this life as a soul. The karma we had gave us this body. At the end of this life, we'll go somewhere else and do the same thing again. So in this, if we think about not somebody else, and that somebody else, oh, I like this person, or I don't like this person, but we just do it. We're a good person. Then what happens is you will find that good will come to you from somewhere else. Now, and that is, when you think about this in another way, think about the idea of heaven and hell in any religion. That when you do good, you go to this place called heaven. Why do you go to heaven? You go to heaven because that is a place where you can spend your good karma. Because good things will happen. It's a lovely place and you're in comfort and luxury and things happen. And whatever the description, that can only happen because of your good karma. So where you go and what is around you is a representation of what you have within you. Yesterday we talked about the man in the mirror. It's absolutely true that when you look in the mirror, to make that person smile, you have to smile. So therefore, if you fill yourself with karma that is always positive, always good. And what does good karma look like? Well, the things that I said to you 2 days ago, that when you're in gratitude, when you're in compassion, when you're in love, when you're in a mode of forgiveness, these passions are human passions. And these passions will bind you very high good karma. And that is what you will reflect back from the mirror. So in order to do this, you have to stop thinking about your life as something that is within a society where you have to impress people, have status, be liked by everybody. Instead, focus on being this person. Focus on having these sorts of qualities. Whether they're fashionable doesn't matter. Whether they're what you think people would like, it doesn't matter. What matters is that they will make your life full of very positive things. And you will find that if you are in the present, in the now, and I keep saying that because most people today are not. When you think about kids today, I work in the field of education. And today, every university says the same thing, that TikTok and Instagram and Facebook have meant everybody has a short attention span. They can't think for more than 5 minutes. When you study things like Jainism, they give you a 10-year span and people are talking about 5 minutes. Then they want gratification. You put up a post and every 2 minutes, how many people have liked it? Who's commented? You have to have gratification. The third thing is that because everything is online, the social interaction, we're humans, we're animals, 98%. We are social creatures, but we've cut off that social. And therefore, our ability to form social bonds has now changed. And this idea of internet means everybody believes everything is instantly available. You don't have to study it. And now we've got artificial intelligence. Ask it a question and everybody knows everything. We're all extremely bright. We don't have to worry about kids going to Oxford. We're already there. Now, what is the result of this? Do you know? And I'm talking about the real result. The real result is when and you can Google this, you can look at it on AI, is anxiety, depression, suicide are in huge numbers because people cannot face life. They find it very difficult to handle life because the skills you need for life, the social, the interactive, don't exist. Kids are happy sitting in a bedroom with 2,000 friends on Facebook, rather than playing cricket in the street with their friends from down the road. Big change. So in this scenario, when you think about this, what we have to do in terms of spiritual progress is really change ourselves, change our feelings, our attitudes, and whatever. And part of doing this Pratikraman, is not that tomorrow you'll stop doing these activities. This is a process. You can't suddenly change, but you will become aware of what these activities are. And once you become aware, at least you will pause and think. At that point, whether you do it or not, you're doing it consciously. That's up to you. But you're not carelessly. The word carelessly is used quite a lot because being careless and being ignorant and being negligent is not an excuse. Okay? So what I want to leave you with is this, that if you want to change the world, change yourself first. And if you change yourself, what you will find is that the passions that are harming you, because they don't harm anybody else. If today I start screaming and shouting, most of you will think, is that a bad day, and move on. I think I've done something to you. I've done nothing. But I've bound that karma. I've harmed myself. If you stop harming yourself through these passions, what you will start to do is find a life and an environment where everybody you meet is happy, friendly, wanting to help you, and life changes. And in that change, over time, you will find that you will both progress spiritually, but you will also find something else, and that is that your progression comes without big hurdles. And if we can achieve that, then we can progress with a view that at the end of this life, we leave it at a point much higher than when we came in. That's the only aim from a Jain perspective of this life. It talks about progressing, getting to moksha. And the idea is not to go downward, not to go back into suffering, but to come out. And if you're thinking, about this whilst you're lying in bed at 3 a.m, just think about the 98%. That there's only 2% that differentiates us from everybody else, and we have to learn to live within that 2%. Okay? There's 10 minutes. I'm going to stop because yesterday there were lots of questions. So I'm hoping there are questions today. There's one at the back. There you go.
Is there an ego difference between ego? I'm going to actually start again. Is there an ego between men and women in a sense regarding what you just said just now? And
Yes.
what we discussed?
Yes.
There is?
Ego is the difference between being humble or having this view that I am somehow better, higher, superior. In reality, and life always depends on which angle you look at, multiple angles to every truth. But in reality, if every form of life is a soul, every form of life is a potential Tirthankar. We're all the same. But we see ourselves as superior to the animals and the plants and whatever. We see ourselves superior to other people, often called the caste system. We see ourselves better educated, better jobs, higher income, bigger houses. So these egos are everywhere, and they're both in men and women. So what they become is the status of what you believe others should judge you by or treat you by. You know, I should be able to come and sit at the front. I should be the one that people come and say hello to. I should be the one that, people recognize. This is ego. In reality, you're no different. There was another one. Yeah.
Let us take a scenario
Yep.
of husband and wife.
Mhm.
They are binding partners
Yep.
all the times.
But they could be good or bad.
Very good of it, yeah, with the probably a picture of it. Now, will they have to be gathering nets? Let's say they don't swipe paint those plate completely of their garments. So in the next birth, that what is carried forwards.
So that's a good question. That's a good question.
They don't have to be together again.
So, I see a lot of husbands and wives looking nervous, trying not to look. Good question. So I'm gonna give you two answers that are interesting. The first. So what binds your next birth? It's your Ayush karma. Ayush is life, okay? And life determines the birth, because if you're going to live for 100 years, you might get a human birth, and if you're going to live for 1,000,000 years, you might get a heavenly birth, or something like that. Now, to get that birth depends on three things: your words, your thoughts, your speech, which binds the karma. And when you bind karma, it has three qualities. The words, thoughts, and deeds decide on the type of karma. The amount of effort looks at the volume of karma. So if you do something small and it just comes and goes, but if you do a lot, that it's in there as a lot. And then the third is the passion you do it with. If you do something with anger, or you do something without any passion, it binds different types. Okay. So for you and your wife, and that's my four, by the way. I think I have to declare my interests here. So for you and your wife, my favor, to go to the same place in Hinduism is possible because they believe in somebody up there who can put you in your next birth. In Jainism, it's only possible if you have the same thoughts, words, and deeds all through your life. So it's impossible. So you are here for this life. Now, there's a second thing which might make some of you happy or sad, which is that, again, in Hinduism, they talk about when you get married, you're married for the next 7 lives. Hindus, not us. In our case, if you bind karma with somebody, karma has no name. You bind your karma and they bind their karma. If you shout at me, you've bound karma that relates to shouting and anger and whatever, and I say, I forgive you, I haven't bound, or I've bound good karma. So there is no binding karma that is the same. And if you shout at me, somebody will shout at you. It doesn't have to be me. It won't be somebody else. So everything that you have done to my favor, and everything that she has done to you, I'm being equal, no favoritism, you will enjoy or suffer, but not from her. Unless the karma is short and it happens in this life.
So karma does not have to be settled between each
No.
other.
No, unless it's short. If it's got a short span, it might happen in this life. If it's got a long span, it will carry on to your next life. And if you didn't have karma, you wouldn't be here. Because it's the karma that's given you the body from your last life.
But there is another life.
As long as you have karma. Karma is physical, the soul is spiritual, right? So you put the physical there. The physical has to give you its fruit, its reward, whether it's good or bad. So it needs a body. So the physical gives you a physical body, and that physical body suffers or enjoys. That's why some people have disease, some people smoke all their lives and never get lung cancer. It's the karma. Okay? So the physical body is only here for you to enjoy the karma you have. Remember that.
Like sometimes we say કે અત્યારે મનુષ્યનો જન્મ મળ્યો છે.
Yeah.
તમે ખરાબ કર્મ કરો તો તમને
Yeah.
કૂતરા બિલાડા
Yeah.
કે animal
There is animal, there is insect, there is plant, there is hell. There's a lot of things below us, only one thing above us, heaven.
That's true.
Mm. And you can therefore see what happens to most people.
So,
Next question, yes.
so going on about karma,
Yeah.
I mean, karma, if it's bad, karma, and then the body is suffering, not karma itself, not the Atma is not suffering.
The Atma is already suffering because it is in a cage. The cage is made of karma. So the Atma is a bit like you sitting here looking at a sun, but clouds across the sky. You know it's there. You feel some of what is there because there is some heat and so on, but you don't experience it. And that lack of experience means you never enjoy its real fruits, okay? Until you shift the clouds. And that's what karma does. It basically conceals the qualities of the soul, so you never enjoy those qualities until you shift the karma.
But it's the body which is suffering, not the
The body is the way to make you suffer. If your Atma will never have pain. Atma is always in bliss. The sun is never going out, even if it's in the clouds, it never goes out. It's still there in 100%. It's the fact that you cannot see. So your soul never suffers. But the karma means that A, you don't experience it, B, you live in ignorance that it's even there. And thirdly, this body gives you all the pain that you want. You know, and as you get old, you kind of, ache and arthritis and diabetes and heart pressure and blood, etc., etc. So you feel the suffering, you as in you, then you is effectively your Atma. Once your Atma leaves your body dies. Okay? So indirectly, yes, your Atma is feeling that pain, but in reality, it's doing to a physical body that you experience. Yes.
While collecting the karma, whenever I do gardening, and we all have to do gardening.
Yeah.
Whenever I clean the bushes and cut the grass, we heard about it, because I know I'm creating a karma. So what's the solution to reduce that karma?
Good question. So when we were looking at aspects of life in Pratikraman, anything that moves has at least two senses, being there. That means anything that doesn't move is one sense, right? And the rules are that if you're a sadhu, you can't even harm one sense. But as a Shravak, it's expected that you will, because you might be farming, you might be. So the rule is really simple. Do it consciously and attentively.
Yeah.
If you see an insect, don't sit there and, pick it gently. So that attentiveness is the answer to it.
Yes, I don't have a gardener, because if I appoint a gardener,
You don't
they
know what
don't
they
give
do.
mercy.
Yes,
They just do whatever.
Yes.
But daily life,
So-
it's very hard.
So that was
everything
why-
is very hard. Learning French is very hard.
And if you want to tell your children about, I said, oh, don't eat potato, don't eat kanda for children. Why, mommy? Why only 8 days? I don't eat this. Why 365 days? Why can't you? No, I can't do that. Potato, I'm going to eat it. Kanda, I'm going to eat it. But you do puja. But it's so hard
You
to
see-
make them understand this Jain Dharma. I'm really, no, I understand. To make the children.
You see, what I'm saying is you cannot do anything for anybody. But by your example, they might decide to follow.
Yeah.
And that's the way you have to live.
એ લોકોને સમજાવવા માટે બહુ hard થઈ જાય છે.
But that is karma. That's the same as you send to a school, one gets a grade A and one grade C. It's the same teacher, the same subject, the same process. But sometimes, again, it depends on the karma within them. I know I keep saying everything is karma, but everything is karma, otherwise it'd be a God. Yes,
Question on that.
there's a question on that. Can you read it?
We believe in all living things are equal, animals, insects, etc. Then why the conflict of building karma and rebirth as a lesser being? Is that not an ego?
No, so we believe that the souls are equal. They all have the same soul. Your soul doesn't change when you become a tree or an ant or a lion. The soul is the same. But when you have those three things, a tree, an ant, and a lion, they have different senses. So they have different levels of consciousness. They have different abilities. They have different restrictions. So these things, I mean, you could call them punishment, but what they are is a representation of the karma that you have bound. So if you're in this life, you're devious, you cheat, you're violent, you kill people, you cause lots of harm, then you will go to those realms. And what you are then doing is experiencing the karma of doing those things. So the soul is the same. It's not about ego. It's about the fact that there is, a different level of consciousness. Now, when you become human, there are 2 or 3 things, but in becoming human, if you are fit to practice this religion, fit as in physically fit, if you have the inclination to do it, and you have been able to learn about it, then you're absolutely at the top of this tree. Because now you've got everything, it's up to you. There's nothing there that you haven't had access to. So whether you then follow it, whether you get disciplined and practice it, and whether you have faith in it, that's the thing. That's why I keep saying that there's no real way but down unless you change at this point. Yes.
So you talked about gratitude, something else, and forgiveness. I've forgotten the middle one.
Gratitude, compassion, and forgiveness.
So in the day-to-day life,
Yeah.
you talk about some scratching cars, someone cutting in front of you, all this sort of stuff. You almost have to undo 20, 30, 40 years of how
Yes.
thick practically how.
But you see, let me tell you this from another perspective, okay? That if you're driving and somebody is about to hit you, but they swerve at the last minute and they miss you, what do you look at that and say, I was really lucky? No, it was good karma. Like hitting you is bad karma, you had good karma. So it's, the thing is not any different. There's no negation. Both good and bad happen if you're aware of what you do at that time, okay? But the problem is that at the point where it happens and you start with blaming somebody, and then you start with agonizing about the fact that this beloved car is no longer pristine and perfect, and then you repeat that and think about it, and it kind of, you have this 2-3 weeks of, real anger and frustration, and the insurance company doesn't return your calls, etc., etc., etc. All you're doing is harming yourself. That other person has come and gone.
So I understand once you know you should think like that, then you can.
You should always think like that, because if it was luck, then it means this world runs on luck. It doesn't. It runs on a really, everything, there's no such thing as something that just happened. There's no God from a Jain perspective. There's no luck. So it has to come from the order of the universe and the karma and everything else. And so if it happened to you, it's because of your karma. That's it. Pointing at somebody and saying you did it or because of you or whatever only harms you, because if they don't really care, they say, yeah, so what? And they walk away, nothing's happened to them.
So if I've been doing that for 50 years and
You've got to
then
change it.
tomorrow, yeah, practically, are there tips or something that
The tip, as I said, the first thing is acceptance. If you accept that whatever happens, it's your karma, then there's nobody else in this equation. It's you and your karma. That's it, full stop. And the second is to be mindful. Why do I say that? Because you then stop reacting. When somebody scratches your car, the problem is not the car, it's the reaction. Anger, hatred, whatever. You might throw a punch, you might become violent, this is a reaction. If you pause, most of you, I'm sure, write emails. When you get an email you don't like, if you reply to it within 5 seconds, or if you wait overnight and reply to it the next day, how different is it? This is the difference between acting and reacting. So, become aware, being present, accept that everything is you, full stop. There's no third person in this, right? Karma has no name. There's no third person. And then, when these things happen, do things in the way you would like them done to you if you had done that. So do it with kindness, do it with compassion, and that's it. It goes away. If you don't do that, and you react and you become angry and whatever, you bind the karma, that means it'll happen to you again. So who's suffering? This is about reducing your suffering, not the other guy, right? And if it happens again, do you see this? That some people seem to have what you might call bad luck again and again and again. That's not bad luck. It's the way that they are, going in a circle. It's like a wheel, hamster wheel. They just keep going round and round. So that's the way out of it. Yes.
I have maybe two questions, both around attachment. So
Yeah.
in one of the vows, I think it says something about setting your own, like not exceeding a limit you set for yourself.
Yeah.
So my first question is, how does one set a limit?
Yeah.
And then my second question is, I think one of the strongest things we have attachment to is people in our lives.
Yes.
And families, friends. And I just wanted to understand, how does that work in Jain philosophy, like attachment to our loved ones?
Yeah. Thank you. So setting limits is about the limits themselves have one real benefit, but there are other benefits. So the real benefit is that everything that you do causes violence. If you get into your car and drive home, you might drive over a couple of billion, microscopic beings and so on, okay? So by setting limits, either geographically, that today I won't go out of Harrow or, so I'm not going to take a train to London to have a meal and go to Brighton to meet a friend, or in what you do or what you use. So you might say, for breakfast, I will only have 3 items tomorrow. That's it. What it does from a practical perspective is it reduces your impact on the planet, right? It reduces the violence. But from a Jain perspective, your ability to stop your most basic desire, which is food, and that's the thing that, the 98% of us kind of lives on, that you spend your time, thinking about the next meal and the last meal. And, one interesting thing, just a side story, but when people go to somewhere, like a wedding or something, and you say, how was it? The first thing they tell you is what food was offered. They don't tell you about the pride of the groom or the mango or the, but they served chicken, it was lovely. So your ability to stop it at will strengthens your mind. And if you don't have control over your mind, these passions will have control over you. So when I keep saying, come to the present, it means that when these passions arise, you're conscious that they're arising. I'm getting frustrated. I'm just going to sit outside, take a few deep breaths, and I'll be fine. Or I'm going to get frustrated and angry and throw something. That's what it does. So the perspective is to do that. The second question around attachment is very good. So attachment is, yes, because what happens is we look at friends and family and whatever and attach this word my to them. My wife, my kids, my friends, my neighbors. The my is the attachment. Because in reality, and I understand this is extremely difficult, but think of it logically. They've come from somewhere, and like I was explaining just now, they'll go somewhere else. So they're yours for 100 years. Now that sounds like a long time, except you've been going in this soul round and round for trillions of years. So it's minuscule, okay? So I'm not saying do any different. What I'm saying is release the expectations, release that attachment. My kids, well behaved, best in class, great in sport, great career, lose the attachment. Be happy that they're doing the best that they can. And be happy that they're happy. That's it. If you lose the attachment, you lose the expectation, give up the disappointment. And the disappointment will mean that you don't live a frustrated life. If your kids want to do something, want to become a painter, a musician, or whatever, encourage them. They don't all have to be lawyers and engineers. Now, if you get into that sort of mindset, everything is good, everything is positive, and it's about them growing up. If you get into an attachment mindset, it means people have to behave in the way that you expect in your mind that person with that label to behave. And in that, there is not only disappointment, but there is frustration and anger and everything else. So, give it up. Once you give it up, you suddenly become a very different person. And you see this with, this idea of control. I mean, we believe we have control. How many of you have kids and will tell me that despite telling them they shouldn't spend time on their phones, watch TV, whatever, do they really care? There is no control. The other way around. Yes.
So, is there a fixed number of souls, or do souls die and get born?
The souls never die, they're permanent.
And there is just a fixed number and that's it.
No, there is not a fixed number. The reason there is not a fixed number. So Jainism has this mathematics, which is really difficult. But infinity is not what it is. There is a number, but it is so big, it's called innumerable, that you cannot put because there's so many zeros. So this big number means that there is an enormous amount. But in addition, there are still some souls that are in the state of being one sense cells that haven't yet taken life. Nigod. And so this is the idea that, but the numbers are, infinite from that in reality. And also the other thing is that when you think about these souls, when you think about the ones that are liberated, that's again innumerable, huge numbers. Those on earth, innumerable, because it's not just humans, there's 8 billion, and then there's the trees and animals and plants and whatever. I mean, life is everywhere. And Jains believe that. So, when they keep telling you, oh, we got a rock from a comet and it had bacteria on it, we've always believed it. Life is everywhere. When you look at, Yellowstone National Park in San Francisco, you go to the bottom, sulfur lakes, acidic sulfur lakes, there's life there. If you go to the bottom where it's pitch black, there's no sun, there is life there. Life is everywhere. I mean, people are just realizing it. We've been saying this forever, that life is everywhere. Yes,
In Hinduism, I don't know whether it's the same in Jainism, say that there is a size, so
No.
being 1/10,000 of the tip of the hair.
so in Jainism, the size of the soul is the size of the body. That's why every part of the body that you touch, you feel it. And the last soul that liberates is 2/3 the size of the last body. I don't know why, but 2/3 is the number. So when you become an ant, the soul becomes the size of an ant, but when you become an elephant, it becomes the size of an ant.
Okay, so when one dies, I mean, is it a particle in that way?
No, so when one dies, within up to 3 samays, I believe. So samay is a fraction of time, that's a fraction of a second. It goes from your body to your next body. So in the womb or whatever of your next birth. And that's it. So that body, literally, at that point, is just a body. There's no value to it.
Okay, then the soul can sometimes go into a distant,
Yes,
like a hell, something.
yes. So the reason there's up to 3 is it can either go up or down, it can go sideways, or it can go sideways and up, or up to 3 ways it can go, but it goes from your body to the next body.
Is it instant?
Yes,
Because the speed of it is faster than light, to
Yeah.
speed anything.
yes,
So that make a sonic boom.
yes. But you have to have the right type of ear to hear it. It's look, it's 10 to 9. I'm happy to carry on answering questions, or you can go and listen to the beautiful Bhakti next door.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
And everybody on Zoom, thank you so much. Before you go,
Let me just say a very big thank you to Bob. અહીંયા થી ઉઠવાનું નામ નથી લેતું જ્યારે ત્યાં ભાવના ચાલુ હોય તો કોઈ ઉઠવાનું નામ નથી લેતું. Me, he has to then say, stop making questions. Thank you so much. Melba is doing one more Pratikraman with us tomorrow, and only because it's bank holiday.
see you all again.
See you all tomorrow with more questions. I guess, really, really thank you. And Vinagaki, thank you very much as well.